good example about the pencil, but it raised a very serious question in my mind, is that there's only so many trees to get that pencil from, and there's only so much steel to be mined. Now, how would a free enterprise system go about creating more trees? They only grow so fast, or steel can only be discovered as
That's a very, very good question. I remember once, about 15 or 18 years ago, I was on a private farm in which they were planting a crop which was going to have a yield 100 years from date. That crop was trees. It was a farm in Sweden, which was a tree farm, and they were planting trees. And they were doing it for private enterprise purposes. And now you will say to me, how in the world can the market do that? There's nobody who's going to live 100 years. But if I plant a tree, and it's 1 year old, well, its value will be a little higher than if it isn't there at all. If it's 2 years old, it'll be worth still more. If it's 3 years old, it'll be still worth still more. So I, as an individual planting those trees, don't have to look to my length of life. I am creating value every year as those trees mature. And the closer they come to the time when they can be used for the purpose of making pencils, the greater the value they have. So I have a strong incentive to invest in those trees. Now, when it comes to the time when I want to use that money that I've been saving and accumulating, I say money, I mean those resources, those physical assets, I will sell it to somebody else. Maybe he'll hold it another 5 years. In the same way, if you go back to the tree example, if you own a tree farm, how fast does it pay you to cut it? Does it really pay you to cut it down to the ground right now? Not at all. That depends on what's going to happen to the price of wood in the future. See, the price system is a very subtle and sophisticated thing because it also gives you information about whether you should save things for the future. If it looks as if something is going to be very scarce, then it will be to your incentive to hold on to it and not to let it go. And that will drive up its price immediately. And that will give people an incentive today to consume less of it. Take trees. The fact is that the total amount of trees is not finite. The total amount of trees is infinite because you can plant it, you can grow it, you can harvest it. And unless I am mistaken, there are more trees being harvested today than there was 50 or 75 or 100 years ago. The volume of wood production has gone up, not down. It's really a mistake to suppose that you've got a finite... You see, again, if you'll pardon me, you're involved in the same mistake I mentioned before, the fixed pi idea, the zero-sum game idea. There isn't a finite amount of trees out there. How much trees it will pay people to grow depends on what they expect the future demand for trees to be. If somebody discovers some way of having a substitute for trees that are half as expensive, then the forest will disappear for that purpose. If, on the other hand, trees become more valuable, well, then they will be planted and grow. Same thing with steel, with iron ore, and with other things. People are really, this kind of nonsense that you hear from the Club of Rome and similar engineers about finite physical resources setting a limit to economic possibilities is really a bunch of nonsense. Most of the value of our product, most of our output, doesn't consist of raw materials at all. The total cost of the raw materials in our national income is under 10% of the total national income. Most of that value comes from here, not from there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.